Hello and welcome back to another video on legends and myths. Today I'll be telling you the story of Hades, god of the underworld and lord of the dead. It all started when Hades was devoured by his father Cronos as soon as he was born, along with 4 of his siblings, all except his brother, the mighty Zeus. Zeus managed to avoid getting eaten by Cronos only because Cronos' wife, Rhea, unhappy at the loss of her children, tricked Cronos into swallowing a rock instead of Zeus. Zeus later rebels against Cronos, causing the Titan to disgorge them. Together they drove the Titans from heaven and locked them away in the pit of Tartarus. After the 3 were victorious, Hades drew lots with his brothers Zeus and Poseidon to decide which part of the world each would rule. Zeus was given the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. Unfortunately, Hades was the only god that couldn't reside on Mount Olympus, dwelling instead in a dark palace beneath the earth. Hades desired a bride and petitioned his brother Zeus to grant him one of his daughters. The mighty god offered Persephone, the daughter of Demeter. However, knowing that the goddess would refuse the marriage, he assented to the forceful abduction of the goddess. When Hermes discovered this, he demanded Persephone be returned to Demeter, and it was decided that if she had not eaten any food from Hades, she could return to the upper world. However, Hades tricked the goddess into eating a pomegranate seed, therefore she could only return to the living for a portion of each year. Hades was depicted as a black-bearded deity. His name was either depicted as either Idoneus, enthroned in the underworld, holding a bird-tipped scepter, or as Pluton, the giver of wealth, pouring fertility from a cornucopia. The Romans named him Pluto, the Latin form of his Greek title Pluton, the Lord of Riches. Hades can be seen aided by the great dog Cerberus, a gigantic 3-headed hound, which guarded the gates of the underworld and prevented the escape of the shades of the dead. Though Hades supervised the trial and punishment of the wicked after death, he was not normally one of the judges in the underworld, nor did he personally torture the guilty, a task assigned to the Furies. Despite modern connotations of death as evil, Hades was actually more so portrayed as a passive deity and never portrayed negatively. His role was often maintaining balance, which he was also depicted as being cold and stern, holding all of his subjects equally accountable to his laws. Although Hades ruled the dead, he wasn't necessarily the god of the dead, for that title belonged to Thanatos. Thanatos was the personification of death. Although he was a minor figure in Greek mythology, he was often referred to but rarely appears in person. The house of Hades was not only assisted by others over whom he had complete authority, it was also described as being full of guests, though he rarely left the underworld. Hades cared little about what happens in the upper world, as his primary attention was ensuring that none of his subjects ever left his domain, for it was forbidden. For if one ever tried to leave, Hades would become quite enraged, for his wrath was equally terrible for anyone who tried to cheat death or otherwise cross him, as Sisyphus found out to his sorrow. For Sisyphus was known for being the man who cheated death. The story of this myth all started when Thanatos, the god of death, came to fetch Sisyphus, but Sisyphus requested that the god displayed how the manacles worked. During the demonstration, the mortal Sisyphus was able to chain Thanatos and save humanity from death. Zeus, enraged that mortals could no longer die now, sent Ares down to earth to release Thanatos. However, Sisyphus would not give up so easy. Knowing that death would come back to ensnare him anew, he gave his wife Merope careful instructions to leave his body unburied once he was dead, and forbade her from performing any funerary rituals. When he died, he immediately went to Hades and complained that he had not received a proper burial. Hades granted him the right to return to Earth to punish his wife and arrange the funeral. Upon returning to Corinth, Sisyphus reunited with his wife, broke his word to Hades, and lived a full life once again, before dying a second time. Since Sisyphus deceived death twice, he was punished and condemned to infinitely roll a boulder up a hill in the underworld. Sisyphus wasn't the only one who deceived Hades, for there was another who tried to cross Hades, whom his name was Pirithous. Pirithous had committed too great a crime for desiring the wife of Hades, and as his punishment, Pirithous was fed to Cerberus for his impiety. Hades' chose of weapon was a staff called bident, a two-pronged implement that has a resemblance of a pitchfork. The staff had the ability to sunder the earth, creating a passage between the worlds of the living and the dead. In Greek myths, when an individual dies, their essence is then separated from the corpse and transported to the underworld. After being transported, the individual will be met at the entrance by the ferryman, Charon, who will then carry the soul across the river Styx and Acheron into the underworld. The underworld is a distinct realm, one of the three realms that make up the cosmos. The underworld itself, commonly referred to as Hades after its patron god, is described as being located at the periphery of the earth, either associated with the outer limits of the ocean or beneath the earth. Darkness and lack of sunlight are common features associated with the underworld, and in this way provide a direct contrast to both the normality of the land of the living, where the sun shines, and also with the brightness associated with Mount Olympus, the realm of the gods. The underworld is also considered to be an invisible realm, which is understood both in relation to the permanent state of darkness, but also a potential etymological link with Hades as the unseen place. In some Greek sources, Tartarus is another name for the underworld, while in others it is a completely distinct realm separate from the underworld. Hesiod most famously describes Tartarus as being as far beneath the underworld as the earth is beneath the sky. It is so dark that the night is poured around it in 3 rows like a collar round the neck, while above it grows the roots of the earth and of the unharvested sea. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what deity or myths you would like to hear me talk about next. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. I'd really appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next myth.